Have you ever walked away from a conversation and felt like you'd just run a marathon? Exhausted, mentally drained, and strangely empty? Or maybe you found yourself talking and talking, then later realized you can barely remember what you said, just left with that lingering guilt, or a wish you could take some of your words back. What if I told you that talking too much is never just a random quirk? Instead, it can be a sign, a silent signal from deep inside. Sometimes it's anxiety, sometimes a shield, and sometimes it's the echo of an old story that's dying to be understood at last. Today, I want to invite you on a discovery. Together, we'll explore the 3 hidden patterns that often drive the urge to fill every silence, and the last one may just surprise you. Let's set something straight from the very start. This is a safe space. If you talk too much or struggle with silence, there's no judgment here, only curiosity, compassion, and a shared journey. This is not about blame, but about uncovering the truths that help us come home to ourselves. So let me introduce you to Sophia. Maybe you'll hear a bit of your own story echoed in hers. All her life, Sophia was the talker, the one people teased, but also the one everyone expected to keep the energy going. She'd joke about it at parties, but the moment she closed the door behind her, something heavy pressed against her chest. And maybe you recognize a little bit of Sophia in yourself, or in someone you love. If so, you're definitely not alone. Together, let's uncover the 3 deep patterns that often drive that relentless need to fill the silence. The last one might even be the one you least expect. Duty's roots of excess, when silence felt dangerous. Let's begin at the very beginning. Why does talking too much become a part of someone's life at all? For many, it traces back to a childhood where silence felt safer than speaking. Imagine a home where the unspoken rule is, only talk when you're spoken to. For Sophia, childhood meant holding back her curiosity, swallowing her tears, and keeping her questions locked inside. And then, years later, that repressed voice doesn't just disappear, it erupts. The child who learned that silence was survival becomes the adult who can't bear it, as if trying to reclaim every lost word from a past that demanded they be hushed. Talking becomes a way to occupy space, to banish the old fears of vanishing or being invisible. It's not a conscious choice. It's the body doing what it learned in order to cope. But as the years go by, that survival pattern can start to hurt more than it helps. Guilt for dominating conversations, embarrassment, and a restless sense of needing to be liked at all costs. Can you relate? If you sometimes find yourself over-explaining, apologizing, or desperately seeking approval, you're not alone. For so many, this is just the first pattern, a learned response that once kept them safe. 2. The anxious armor, talking to protect yourself. The second hidden pattern is just as powerful, what I call the anxious armor. Have you ever noticed yourself talking faster and faster, leaping from topic to topic, unable to stand even a moment of quiet? This is the curtain of talk, where words pile up, not to communicate, but to hide what's underneath. For people whose bodies hum with anxiety, talk becomes a way to organize chaos, to keep the scary feelings at bay. Maybe you feel this surge of restlessness. Silence feels too loud, as if in that empty space all the feelings you've tried to avoid would suddenly rush in. Sophia, too, knows this dance well. On anxious days, her words tumble out, almost beyond her control. Her mind races, her breath shortens, and talking lets out just enough steam to avoid boiling over. Yet the relief is short-lived. After the conversation, when the world finally quiets down, what's left is not peace, but an uneasy emptiness. This is the anxious pattern, when talking becomes a shield, a lifeline, a way to manage what feels unmanageable inside. Let me ask you, have you ever filled a space with words just to avoid what might appear if you allowed silence? If you have, know this: your body and mind are just trying to keep you safe, but there is a gentler way. 3. Talking as existence. The quest for validation and belonging. There's a third, subtle yet deeply human pattern, talking as a way of simply existing, as a means of saying, I'm still here, I matter. When being noticed feels uncertain or belonging seems precarious, words become evidence that you're still present, still worthy. You might notice this urge most in groups, that panic in the pit of your stomach if too many seconds pass without you saying something. To speak is to stay visible, to feel included, to avoid being left behind. It's chasing the warmth of laughter, approval, or just a nod that says, "We see you." Sophia often found herself slipping into this role, becoming the effortless entertainer just to ensure her place in the circle. Each joke or story was a tiny bid for connection. But the truth, when all the eyes turned away, what lingered was not satisfaction, but a craving for just a little more proof that she belonged. Like the saying goes, an empty wagon rattles loudest. For many, that noise isn't about vanity, but about desperately wanting to fill a space where connection should have been. If you find yourself constantly searching for approval or pushing to be heard, this is the third pattern. A yearning for validation, for a community to call your own. If any of these stories or patterns sound familiar, you're exactly where you're meant to be. Here, we're all travelers, finding our way back to ourselves day by day. If you want company on this journey, tap subscribe and ring the bell. This is how you keep your inner compass steady, so every new discovery has a home. So how do we know when talking too much isn't just a quirk but a deeper pattern that deserves extra care? Here are a few signs to watch for. You notice yourself dominating conversations in every situation, no matter who you're with. You get feedback, gentle or not, that you always talking these or not letting others in, yet changing feels impossible. After social events, you feel exposed, embarrassed, or even ashamed of things you said. Real consequences emerge. Friends drop off, work relationships get tense, or family stops listening. The off switch isn't there. Despite your best efforts, you simply can't pull back. In some cases, these patterns show up alongside anxiety disorders, ADHD, past traumas, or emotional wounds that have never quite healed. If these signs sound deeply familiar, consider it an invitation, not to panic, but to investigate with kindness. Sometimes reaching out for help is the bravest, wisest step on the path back to yourself. The cost of excess. When connection turns to loneliness. It's a painful irony. Talking too much is nearly always an attempt to connect, yet over time it can actually drive people further away. In love, conversations become debates, where being heard outweighs understanding. Both partners leave feeling unseen, unheard. In friendships, invitations begin to dry up. Replies get shorter, colder. Sometimes you spot your friend's eyes glaze over, retreating even as you talk. In work, your ideas risk being drowned by your own words, or you become labeled as the talker. And true collaboration feels further, not closer. But perhaps the hardest cost of all? The way it leaves you feeling afterward. Isolated, guilty, empty, longing to connect yet not knowing how to start over. If you recognize this cycle, let it be a gentle nudge. The longing behind your words is not weakness. It is a compass pointing you toward real connection if you're willing to listen to what's beneath the noise. Is it just a trait or something deeper? 3 questions to guide you, ready for a little reflection? Not all talkers need therapy or diagnosis. Sometimes it's just a style, one you can shape. Other times it asks for a new kind of attention. To clarify, since when has this been your pattern? Did it start in childhood or arise after a difficult season? Where is it most powerful? Is it everyone or only around certain people or settings? At what cost? Has it impacted your work, friends, love, your own sense of self? If the cost keeps rising and your attempts to adjust just aren't working, maybe it's time for compassionate support. No shame, only curiosity, because understanding is always a step toward healing. Gentle steps back to yourself. Quiet the noise without losing your voice. But here is the most hopeful truth. This pattern is not a life sentence. You can learn to quiet the noise without losing your voice, your warmth, or your power. This isn't about restriction, it's about reconnection. Let's walk through a few gentle steps on that path back to yourself. First, try the 50-50 rule. After every group conversation, ask yourself, did I take up more than half the time? If so, can I pause and invite others to share next time? Next, enlist a close friend as your compass partner. Agree on a private signal, a gesture or look, if you start to monopolize. When it happens, thank them and gently give the floor. These are not scoldings, but small beacons guiding you home. Practice giving yourself permission to let silence linger. After speaking, breathe in and out. Notice what emotion comes up. Is it discomfort, longing, relief? Let that be your clue. What in the quiet wants your attention? Active listening is a gift, not just to others, but to yourself. Try asking, how did that feel for you? Or, would you like to share your thoughts? When you listen, you expand the circle of trust, not just for them, but for your heart too. Finally, if you feel yourself speeding up, take 3 deep breaths and let your body slow your mind. It's not about forcibly stopping. It's about making space for discovery, for connection, for being truly seen and heard. So here's your gentle challenge and your compass for the days ahead. When you feel the urge to talk too much, pause and ask yourself, am I speaking to reveal who I am or to hide from what I might find in the quiet? Carry this golden question with you. In the comments, if you feel ready, share what you discover. What stirs for you in the silence? Your moment, your story, might be exactly what someone else here needs to feel a little less alone. And if the journey resonates, stay with us. Subscribe, and you'll always have a place to come back to. You and the wisdom waiting in your pauses. For even the loudest voices need rest, and even the busiest minds crave the clarity of quiet. Next, I invite you to our upcoming video, all about how listening, truly listening, can transform not just your conversations, but your whole sense of belonging. You won't want to miss it. Remember, your voice is power, but your silence is a compass. Journey well.